costs $2.30 a bundle. You can make, if you have a dehydrator, you can make 5 trays of flax bread, my guess, for about that same price, probably for right under 10 bucks. And that flax bread will last you weeks. So in the summer, what I do, this is like my big treat. And I'm sure it'll change a little bit this summer, because I just know it from last summer, and I've changed a lot this year. But I'll have my flax bread, which again, I'll only make like 2 or 3 times for the whole summer and have enough. But people come to my house a lot, so I also, back to the company thing, I make what I'm eating for everybody, more and more. And people don't even know it's raw. Like, they just know that it tastes good. And it's just kind of like my inside joke of like, and you can always do that for primarily, and then add in a few other things. And if you don't talk about it, if you don't be like, this is healthy, this is raw, like I'm trying to convert you into being, to telling you that all the foods that you love are bad. If we drop that whole thing and just make it, and it's like you said, the kids come to you when you have food, right? Because it's there, and they're like, oh, mom will give it to me. I'll steal it from mom, and and the same thing's true. Like, your guests are at your house, they're going to eat what's out there. Okay, so where was I?
You're talking about flax bread.
What?
Flax bread?
Flax bread. Oh, so I take the flax bread. This is like lunch, or sometimes dinner, and then I'll put something on it. Like, I used to use that lemonade, the stuff at the health food store, and I'm not sure what's in it. I'll probably make my own this summer, which will be like some sort of, what's in it? I'm not even sure.
You can make your own version with like cashews and lemon and
olive oil.
And olive oil. It's kind of like
it's like a nut oil
nut version
of mayonnaise.
Essentially.
Yeah. So I take the piece of bread, put a little something sort of creamy, spready on it, and then I'll put a huge piece of tomato, and then some raw basil from the garden, or arugula or whatever, a little bit of pepper, maybe a pinch of salt. And I have these, I just do open face, I don't put another one on top, and I have these little gorgeous sandwiches. And I'll make a big salad, and I'll have my little sandwich and salad or soup, raw soup, like the raw gazpacho kind of thing, and salad, or like a raw Thai fennel green soup and salad, and have that for lunch. Usually for me, lunch and dinner looks the same. And sometimes I just make all that soup at lunch and have it again at dinner. I'll make those sandwiches at lunch, so I'm not constantly, making stuff. But yeah, that's something that I love in the summer.
Now, with your salads, I know you mentioned that you use fruit as a base sometimes, and so that's just like fruit and lemon when you're doing a salad, something like that. And then, when do you personally, do you do the oil dressings much in the summer, or do you?
I don't know this summer yet, because I feel like we're just going into summer. But I'm doing, this past week I mixed together like orange juice, just like squeezed an orange, added a little balsamic vinegar and a little bit of lemon. But if your pitta's high at all, you don't want to add any vinegars at all. You don't want any vinegar in your food at all, because it extremely aggravates pitta. So just using lemon or lime juice as that sort of like acid base. But then adding a sweet fruit, whether it's like pineapple or papaya or watermelon or even apple, like grating an apple. Say you chop up kale really finely, grate an apple, add a pinch of salt and a little bit of lemon, and just massage that in there, and then that'll wilt, and you'll have a salad. And you can do the same thing with lettuce, and it doesn't even need to wilt if it's lettuce. You can also just take an apple and put it in the blender and grind it up with a little bit of water, and then that would be your salad dressing. So in general, what a lot of people are going towards is just diet much higher in fruits and vegetables, as opposed to, and much lower in fats. So, and it's totally ignorant of protein. It's basically saying you're getting protein through your greens, you're getting in the amino acids that you need, and you really don't need very much protein at all in its like organized form. So, yeah.
And you use a lot of nuts, like almonds?
No,
No.
I don't. I mean, I put them in our muffins. I normally wouldn't. But again, like I kind of take into account like where our group is and transitioning. But no, I mean, in general, I wouldn't at all. I don't use much. I don't use many. I use more flax and chia compared to any other sort of fat substance. Yeah. And that's kind of where it goes. But you can see it's like can you see now how it's like an ongoing continual progression and in steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did you make your flax bread?
So flax bread, yeah, and that's like one of the best. If you just even Google online, if you put in raw flax bread, the recipes are more or less the same. It's you grind up your flax seeds, and you can grind them in a Vitamix, or you don't really want to ever buy flaxseed ground because it goes rancid. As soon as that seed splits, the oils go rancid, so you're losing the good of it. But basically, it's a Cuisinart fest, and you have a huge bowl because usually you want to make your whole dehydrator full of flax bread because it's kind of a pain in the neck. It's going to take a little while, but then you'll have a ton of it. And I just use the Cuisinart that has the grater on it, and I put through all the, I'll put through a bunch of the rougher vegetables, carrots, celery, all that. And sometimes there's some dates in it, usually some onion or leek, which is adding a lot of moisture. It's like an intelligent moisture. If you don't do onions, don't do onions. You don't need them. You could add beet if you wanted it to be red. You wouldn't add any leafy greens in general. It's not like the best place to get your leafy greens is in your flax bread. Like let your bread be brown, and it's got a lot of carrots and celery in it primarily. You can add some garlic, caraway. That the stuff we'll have tonight at my house will have that. And then in your Vitamix, you then take those. Depends how chunky you want it to. If you want it like really smooth, you take those things that you grated or chopped, put them in the Vitamix, and now make them into a liquid. And you add a bunch of water, and so it's a liquid. And then pour it into your bowl, and you start to stir in the flaxseed powder until it gets thick. And flax bread has quite a bit of salt in it in general. Raw foods, like the salt, just you can use quite a bit of salt in it. And then I use Teflex sheets, which they're not like the dehydrator trays that Tanya showed you before that have those big porous holes. The Teflex is almost more like wax paper. It's super thin. I think what is it made out of? It's made out of it's got some wild technology. It's got like Teflon in it.
Yeah, like silicone in it.
Yeah, it's just like unbelievable stuff that it looks like paper, but you can't rip it. It's really, really strong, so it washes really well and all that. But you can pour a liquid on. It's how you make fruit roll-ups for kids. That's what you do with the extra green smoothie that didn't get drunk. At the end of the day, you dump that on your Teflex sheet and you stick it in your dehydrator overnight. Now you have fruit roll-ups. And then you stick it in the dehydrator, the raw bread. You spread it out on the tray, about 1/4 inch thick. You put it in the dehydrator overnight. You take it out, you flip it. So it's basically like you peel it and flip it, and then you dehydrate the other side, which may only take an hour or two, may take longer. Dehydration rates are more or less based on climate and the humidity in the air.
Which there's none here, so it's shorter
Take a
time.
little longer to beat.
Yes, it's shorter time. Yeah. Yeah, and then, we were talking before about grilling and, summertime and cookouts and stuff. And I would, if you're mostly grilling meat, like obviously easy thing to do would just start to skewer vegetables and meat together. So then like your percentage of meat is going to be less proportionally. So you might, instead of having like 2 hot dogs, right, you may have 4 pieces of shrimp on 2 different skewers, that kind of thing. So just going more and more in that direction, and then preparing more sides so people feel full. Most people get the full feeling. This is why is America overweight? We could go on and on and on. One of the big reasons is the fat content in our food's really high. The fat content of meat is I think right around 30%, right? So it's very high, right? So every time people think meat is protein. Meat's more fat than protein, right? So we're getting all this extra fat. The thing about fat, a thimble of fat has a gram of, how big's a gram? It's like a few grams fit in a thimble. A thimble with fat in it a gram, so let's say a thimble has 3 grams of fat. And a gram of fat is 9 calories. So that thimble has 27 calories. Right? So carbs, 1 gram is 4 calories. And I hate calorie counting, which is why I don't know these numbers very well. But then you have this thimble, it's got 3 grams. Now that's 12 calories. Does fat make you feel more full initially when you eat it? But not really. It doesn't expand your stomach because it's not high in volume. After you eat it, it makes you feel heavy. Like once you really feel it in your intestines, it makes.
I'm not just talking about animal fat, like coconut or oil or.
Yeah.
That gives me more
Of a full feeling. Yeah. Well, and it will because you're more sensitive. But in general, no, it's okay to know that. I mean, just as we get more awake, we can, like if I have a bite of lettuce that has an oily dressing on it, I feel more of that heavy fat, and much more so than I used to when I went totally fruit and vegetable without additional oils. It really made that much more aware for me. But in general, we don't have enough fiber in our diet. So you take the average barbecue, and there's the hot dogs and the hamburgers, and I was one up the other night, there's tri-tip. They're getting gourmet around here. And tri-tip, I don't know, some piece of beef, some piece of a cow. And then there's usually like a green salad or a pasta salad or whatnot. And so you think of like what's going to make you feel what's going to fill up your stomach with the most quantity, like the quantity to calorie ratio, right? So the meat has a really, really high calorie ratio, low on the quantity side. A lot of the food that we've been eating, very, very high in fiber, right? So it takes up a lot of volume in your body, but it has a low calorie ratio. So it literally makes you feel more full. It is more full. And because it's fibrous, it's scraping your intestine. So it's scraping any intestinal plaque out of your intestine. And you're not getting nearly as many calories. So when you look at then you're planning your barbecue and you think, oh, I'm going to have the shrimp on the skewers, or cut up the meat and put it on the skewers with a bunch of zucchini and other cauliflower, other vegetables, paint it with your olive oil and your salt and pepper. And then I'm going to make this big green salad, and then I'm going to make this other, like this fennel frond salad, and I'm going to have a carrot salad. And so then there's going to be there's like 3 or 4 salads and a little bit of meat. And all of a sudden there's diversity of taste. The raw food's very flavorful, and you can add, and you can make it flavor depending on the kind of spices you use with it. So that's it's just a way of thinking about, like, people like diversity of taste. When you are, decreasing the amount of meat, you're going to not want to have a void there. You're going to want to increase everything else, make it visually appealing. Don't have brown soups. Don't have brown smoothies. If you add blueberries and banana to smoothie, you're going to go towards brown. So you have to choose. If you want a more red, put in some beets and just like I promise you'll learn all that through experimentation, because you'll make brown soups and you'll have meals that like nobody wants to eat anything, and make popcorn after it. Like that gives them fiber, will fill them up, whatnot. And if you add enough butter, right? Everyone's gonna love it. So yeah, so those are just some ideas. In general, planning ahead to have having some of the dehydrated stuff goes a long way. And then going to the supermarket and really, like, my fridge is always stocked with a ton of fruits and vegetables. And whenever I need a fast food, I put a bunch of stuff in the blender and I decide, is it going to be sweet? If it's sweet, it's a smoothie. Is it going to be savory? Then it's a soup. And that's it. And as soon as anyone in the family gets tweaky at all, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, we're having raw soup for dinner and great smoothies for breakfast, and that's that. Until like that person's like back in just the natural state of the human being. Natural state of the human being is happy, uplifted, and very easy to be around other people. Naturally social too. So, yeah. Good? Are we kind of good on this section? Because we can, yeah, okay, great. Yeah.
What's your thought on coconut oil?
What about it?
Yeah, I mean, any thoughts on it?
Oh, on coconut. Well, let's talk about fats in a little bit, because let's get into the whole, no, that's all right, but we can get into the whole, breakdown of fats and protein. We'll go back to the studio and we'll do a little bit of movement again, and then we'll talk about like fats and protein, because this is the thing, you guys change your diet, people are going to ask you, why are you eating this? Why aren't you eating that? And first of all, you never have to answer anybody. Like, you can just say, like, it makes me feel good is usually the best answer, instead of going into like any reason. It makes me feel good.
Or the look at me. Like the, oh, see, like.
Oh yeah, look at you. You lost 80 pounds. Yeah, there's that. Like, yeah. Because I feel good.
But it happens the opposite too. Like if
Yeah.
Mike and I have gained weight, everybody's like, you didn't do your cleanse this year. Why didn't you do your
Busted!
People are concerned about us. They're like, oh, you're just making fun of us because we didn't do our cleanse this year. Now everybody wants to know what's wrong. You've got, you know. I'm like, oh God, go back. We're talking about.
I get that too from mine. No, Mom, you need to go to yoga. You know, I get that. Like if I get crazy, I get sent off to yoga. Seriously. Your cleanse is the same way. Like, you think it's time you start drinking your green juice?
I love it. We all get tweaked. That's just the nature. You guys, that one last thing I'm going to end on this, just to bring it back full circle, is we often personalize our health and our experience, and I just want us to see almost all of this from a very impersonal place. That like the Homo sapien, you know, as a mammal, has a very hard time with a diet that's not high in prana and a lifestyle that's not high in prana, right? They're like, if we stop exercising and we start eating a higher fat and lower fruit and vegetable diet, we get grumpy, right? Like we get angry, we get irritable, we get frustrated, we get depressed. We might go, how we go negative might be slightly different, but in general, that's what happens. And as we get more exercise and more fresh air and go to bed earlier and wake up early and get hydrated and eat food that has a lot of chlorophyll in it, we get happier, we get more connected, we start to thrive, we look good, we feel good, we look good, you know, and all that starts to happen. And so whenever you're feeling out of balance, don't beat yourself up. Just be like, oh, that's what happens to a Homo sapien when a Homo sapien makes those choices. And this is what happens to a Homo sapien when a Homo sapien makes better choices. And when we keep it at that level, there's not this whole story and this whole drama and I need a cookie to make me feel better because I've been making bad choices lately, and that whole thing that like goes down its own really weird slippery slope towards neurosis. All right, cut. Thank you.